Story 3 The Quiet Floor. In the tallest building on the university campus, there was a floor that most students never visit. The building itself was modern and busy, filled with classrooms, lecture halls, and offices where professors worked late into the evening. Elevators moved constantly, carrying students between floors, and the sound of conversation echoed through the hallways during the day. Yet the top floor, known simply as level 12, remained unusually quiet. Officially, level 12 was still part of the building. It appeared on the elevator panel, and the door would open if someone selected it. However, there were no classrooms listed on the directory, no office assigned to staff, and no scheduled activities that required students to go there. Over time, most people stopped noticing it altogether. Some students had heard vague stories about the fall. A few claimed it had once been used for research but was later closed. Others believed it was simply unfinished space that had never been properly developed. No one seemed to know for certain, and no one cared enough to investigate. Except for one student, Lucas Bennett, first noticed level 12 during his second year at the university. He was studying engineering, a field that required precision, logic, and attention to detail. Lucas was the kind of person who noticed small inconsistencies, the kind of person who questioned things that others ignored. One evening, after a long study session in the building, Lucas stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the ground floor. As the door began to close, he saw that level 12 was still listed above all the other floors. He hesitated. Then, without fully understanding why, he pressed the button. The elevator moved upward. When the door opened, Lucas stepped into a dimly lit hallway. The air felt cooler than the floors below, and the silence was immediate and complete. There were no voices, no footsteps, no distant sounds of activity, only stillness. The hallway stretched in both directions, lined with closed doors. The lights above flickered faintly, casting long shadows across the floor. Lucas walked slowly forward, his footsteps echoing softly. He expected to find empty rooms or storage space, but when he opened the first door, he found something unexpected. The room was furnished. There was a desk, a chair, and a bookshelf filled with neatly arranged notebooks. Everything appeared clean, organized, and easily used. Lucas stepped inside. On the desk, there was an open notebook. Curious, he leaned closer and began to read. The page was filled with handwritten notes, but they were not academic notes. They were thoughts.
I keep wondering if we should the right path. Everyone else seems so certain, but I'm not sure I belong here. Lucas frowned. He turned the page. Another entry. I told my parents, doing well, but I haven't told them how lost I feel. I don't want to disappoint them. Lucas stepped back. The room suddenly felt different. It did not feel like a classroom or an office. It felt personal. He left the room and continued down the hallway. Each door he opened revealed a similar space. Each one containing a desk and notebooks filled with handwritten entries. The writing in each notebook was different, but the tone was similar. Uncertainty, doubt, fear, these were not office records. They were private thoughts. Lucas returned to the elevator. His mind unsettled. He could not understand why such a room exists in the building, or who had written the entries in the notebooks. The next day, he tried to ask a professor about the level 12. The professor seemed confused and said there were no classes held on the floor. When Lucas mentioned the rooms and the notebooks, the professor simply smiled politely and suggested that Lucas might have misunderstood what he had seen. But Lucas knew what he had seen. Over the following weeks, he returned to level 12 several times. Each visit revealed more notebooks, more entries, more voice that seemed to express thoughts students rarely spoke aloud. One evening, as Lucas sat in one of the quiet rooms, he began to recognize something familiar in the writing, the doubt, the uncertainty, the pressure to meet expectations. These were not unfamiliar ideas. They were his own. He had simply never written them down. For a long time, Lucas had focused on doing well in his studies, following a clear path toward a stable future. He rarely allowed himself to question whether the path was truly his own. Just as he read the entries in the notebooks, he realized that many students shared the same silent concern. They simply did not express them openly. On one particular visit, Lucas noticed an empty desk. Like the other rooms, this one had no notebook, only a pen. He stood there for that long moment, unsure of what to do. Then, slowly, he sat down. He picked up the pen and he stared before writing. At first, the words did not come easily. He was not used to expressing his thoughts in this way. But gradually, he began to write. I don't know if it should be a path for myself or for someone else. I keep moving forward, but I don't know where I'm going.
He paused, then continued. I'm afraid that if I stop questioning it, I might realize I don't belong here. When he finished, he placed the pen down and leaned back in the chair. The room felt different now. Not empty, but understood. Over the next few weeks, Lucas continued to visit level 12. He read more entries, and sometimes he added his own. Writing became easier, and the act of putting his thoughts into the words gave him a sense of clarity he had not expected. He also began to notice something else. The entries in the notebook were changing. New pages appeared, writing in different handwriting, responding to earlier thoughts. You are not alone in feeling this way. It's okay to question your path. Sometimes uncertainty means you're thinking honestly. The notebooks were no longer just a collection of private thoughts. They had become conversations. One evening, as Lucas stood in the hallway, he realized that level 12 was not an abandoned space. It was a hidden one. A place where students could express what they could not say elsewhere. A place where silence allowed honestly. Before leaving, Lucas returned to the first room he had entered weeks earlier. He opened the notebook and read the first entry again. I'm not sure I belong here. He turned the page and wrote beneath it. Maybe belong isn't something you find, but it's something you create. He closed the notebook and stood up. As he walked back to the elevator, the hallway no longer felt empty or forgotten. It felt quiet in a different way. A quiet that held voices, a quiet that listened. When the elevator doors closed behind him, Lucas realized that he would continue visiting level 12, not because it was hidden, but because it allowed him to see something clearly for the first time. Not the building, not the university, but himself.
Hello, my name is Kong Ho Phao Pan. I'm 21 years old. I'm studying in the Faculty of Humanity, majoring in English for Professional and International Communication. I affirm that I have recorded the audiobook with my own voice.
Hello, my name is Silawatan Young. The title of the story is The Quiet Floor. I affirm that I have recorded the audiobook with my own voice, and that this work is my own. I accept responsibility for my role in ensuring the integrity of the work submitted by the group in which I participated.
My name is Khatiya Sena Luang. I chose Story 3, The Quiet Floor. I affirm that I have recorded the audiobook with my own voice, and that this work is my own. I accept responsibility for my role in ensuring the integrity of the work submitted by the group in which I participate.